So, like to say, we'll be looking at SQL, that's the structured query language, and so we'll be looking at it through these views. So we'll be checking on some basic command. I will look at working with what multiple tables and some data manipulations. I mean, maybe elementary today, and then as the day goes by, do more. So the first thing you want to understand is database and what they really are. Because if you don't understand database, you possibly won't understand why the need of SQL. So the database is actually an organized collection of data used to store, manage, and retrieve information. And we possibly have been using Excel for so long. Some of us just when we need to quickly do some subtract. Excel actually has that functionality of being a database because it definitely serves as a data storage space. You can manage data out there and you can retrieve data when you need it. So when you're doing your find um, in an Excel sheet, it is more like you are trying to retrieve a particular data that is contained in that particular space. But much more than that, by the time you start having a whole lot of data, so uh, there are dedicated databases for that. I don't know if you have experienced a place where you have some data stored in your Excel, and because the lines are much, it gets to freeze. So there are some dedicated system for that, which have more robust backend for storing large data and well understand um, database as that. Like I said, an organized collection. So you talk about organized collection. It's that's the part that if that is taken out of database, you possibly will have a mess. And that's where the concept of data cleaning comes into play. If it is not organized, then you want to put it in a structured manner so that you can then it can be easy for you to retrieve data from it. So that's what the database is. And we have on the broad note, we have tool type, and then we have the relational database, and we have the non-relational. So relational database could actually be walked through by the SQL, as the structured query language. So you can use tools like SQL to retrieve um, data from them, but the non-relational, so you use tools as um, no SQL. So we also have to understand what SQL is. Like I said, even I think Doctor also mentioned that while I was opening the class, is structured query language. And what that means, I mean, from the name, it's a language used for querying database, and it use it is a very structured one. And I think I mentioned last week only that we don't have the playback. So, like I was saying, that the structured query language, it is used to communicate with database, relational database. At that, so um, it is query language. It's more like you writing a code to communicate. So now you want to communicate with the database, and this is the language that the database understands. So relational databases understand this language, and when you speak it to them, it is more like you speaking the language of um, delta and epsilon. So when you speak that language, they understand. If I say the language of delta and epsilon, people who study mathematics will understand that language, because when we start vibrating on for every um, for every where there exists uh, such that you know and this will not be written in English because they will be written in symbols, so it is left for you who understand the language of delta and epsilon to interpret what is written. So it's the same thing with SQL and database. So database understand the structured query language, and that's why when you speak that language to it, it gives you whatsoever you're looking for. And that's why we want to learn the language of that the database understand, because we want to get something from it. So doctor was talking about if you're in Kano, for instance, I served in Kano. You want to learn things that you can use in getting water, because there was no water, and that was where I learned in Kasamo, Kakao, Budabu. That meaning if you get, please get me um two kegs. So, and you want to learn something in a zone car, I want to get that from the boss. How much do you sell this? You want to learn it, because if I don't learn it, there won't be any way for me to actually get things done. All right. So there won't be any way for me to get things done. And that is why it is very important for us to learn this language. Okay. So I want to establish why we need to learn. So then we need to understand the um, the relational database that we actually are operating on. So relational database concept. So the table are organized, like I said, when we're defining what the database are, we said it is an organized collection. So tables are organized in rows and columns. Yeah, great. So tables are organized in rows and columns. Row represent individual records, while column represent the attributes. So attributes here is just more like in Excel where you have the header, the column name. So and that's the attribute. We call it here attribute. I think it is in Power BI. We call it features. So more just for you to understand that it is just what the column stands for, and rows are the information that goes across. So and we have something that we call the primary and the foreign key. So the primary and the foreign key are unique identifiers. And if you've been following this class right from the days of Excel, you know that I am always very key on unique identifier, because they help in actually um, looking up things. You can be sure when you're using a unique identifier to look for something, or to reference, or to get a lookup value into a space, you're sure that you're getting the right thing. Because you might apply something, you might apply a function, and you will get result. But how are you sure what you call for is what you get? That is another thing entirely. So how are you sure what you called for is what you get? So that is another thing entirely. So the point here is that we have primary keys, and we have the foreign keys that unique identifier for each records. So and the foreign keys help you to link. Yeah. So we move on. I was speaking about the primary keys and the foreign keys the other time. So and I said, I'm very key on unique identifiers, because these are some of the things that will help you to move between tables. So we've been working on just a table. So and I think I explained last time, just trying to move us from known to unknown in the place where the sheets in Excel. So in the workbook in Excel, we can have several sheets. So the sheets are those tabs that you see below each Excel workbook. So those sheets in considering a workbook as a database, so those sheets are regarded as a table. So those tables are contained. So it is the tables are contained in databases. So you have multiple tables. I mean, you could have a single table in the database, but I mean, when you have a very complex one, so you have a lot, you can have as much as 100 tables in the database, and you want to get data from, say, 10 of them. You want to get a report and how it is structured is because they make them like for like. So you want to be able to um, find a way of linking the 10 tables together or maybe two of them or three of them. So how you do that is through the primary keys, which are unique identifier, and also the foreign key from where you go into, which helps you to link one table to another. So we get to see that when we get into the workspace. So there are types of relationships. So Power BI will have exposed you to this relationship. When we're talking about the yeah, when we're talking about the relationship. So you see that when you're about to create a visual in Power BI and you have more than one table that you've loaded into your workspace, so you want to go and set the relationship. So you can either set one to one, you can set one to many, and you can set many to many, or many to one. So um, that helps you to define a relationship. And what does the relationship means? So it helps to define the relationship that happens, um, the connection between the two tables. So how should they relate to themselves? So when I call, will one of these be able to call multiple of these? That is one to many. So many from here would be able to call many from here. That's many to many. Okay, it is only many from here that can call one from this. It is regarded as many to one. So we can have many to one, we can have one to many, and most of the time they just limit it to one to many to represent both one to many and many to one. Because based on the one that is leading and the one that is following, so we can have that in place. All right, so these are some of the basic Excel basic. So we have the command. They are classified as data definition, the data manipulation language, which is DML, and we also have the data control language, which is the DCL. And the common statement. We have the select, the insert, the update, and the delete. Okay, the select is actually just like modifying data, say into a cell or a column, or you just want to update. So you want to update, say, find and replace, or even have an entirely new row or a new item. So, and you want to delete, I think that needs no explanation. You want to get it off that list. So, and the syntax, okay. So, keywords like select, from, where, insert into value, update set, and delete. They are common SQL statement, and all of this can actually be combined in one statement. And what we call SQL statement is, like I said, it's a language. So a statement is a full expression. So they are not phrased. So if I say select, say there is a table called movie. Um, uh, there is a table called movie, and in that movie we have or we have movie title. So there is a table called movie, and in that table called movie we have an attribute or a column which is table movie title. So I can say select movie title from movie. So if I say select movie title from movie, or I can say select all from movie, so that will give me all the columns, all the attributes in that particular table called table what's it called? Movie title from movie. That is, I want the column that bears all the movie titles. And if I want to be more assertive, more specific, that movie, where? So where title equals John Wick. So now it will give me the specific stuff, or where serial number equals John Wick, or where something equals something. So now we have drilled down to something, and we can do the insert, and that's another statement on its own. And we can say insert value into value into, then we have all of the attributes we want to do. and that's how. So we'll get into that in more detail. So installing SQL, I believe that is done already. And so the popular database management system, the MySQL and the Postgres, and you know, excuse me, and SQL Server is actually widely used, and that's why we're actually doing this. These are some of the popular. So I think what we've installed is MySQL Workbench, which is a very good one. So just looking at the features of each of the different management systems, and that's the DBMS. So just looking at what each of them stands for, and their features, their use cases, and their performance. All right, it's good for you to get familiar with it. That could be a question to answer somewhere. All right, so yeah, I was talking about statement the other time, and I was able to just tell you that this is how it goes. So we're looking at select column one. The column one was what I represented as, say, um, movie title. That could be the attribute of column one, and comma column two. So we want to select both column, that is maybe movie title or table name, it is movie. So where that's the clause. So the analytics language is a fifth generation language. So it has a very close similitude to the normal everyday English, but I regard it as a broken English because you don't speak your English as select this from this. You rather say give me this from this. So where clause is actually introduced, it helps you to filter the result that will be generated. And where the where is introduced, so a condition will now be given to your search, and then once the condition is met, then it gives you whatever you have, you're looking for, and then order by. So now this is another um, factor that you can relate to the Excel sort. So when we do filter, after filtering we can also sort. We can say from top to bottom, or we can say from bottom to top, and that is what order works for, and we will be seeing that in a bit. All right, so okay. Um, there is this database doctor. Have you been able to share with them? So I don't know if you have access to this. Um, okay, so I don't know if you have the database that I will be using this evening. All right, with or without you having it, let me go ahead and use it. Please, one in the chat box if you have downloaded your MySQL Workbench. So 1 person out of 28. Okay, we don't have as much people who have downloaded it. Some people just want to learn by hearing. Well, it comes by hearing by the word of God. Yeah. Okay. Maybe SQL also will be learned by hearing. I love that. All right. Let me stop sharing this and then we'll go over to the workbench. Okay, so I have my workbench here before you. Okay, so I will just go over into my local instance. All right. So, okay. So this is the database called the classic model that we'll be using to demonstrate some of our learning in today's class. And apologies, I haven't shared before now, and you should now have it. Um, so, Doctor might be uploading it into um, the repository, so where you can actually go pick it from. So, um, Before even going into this, let me let me take all of this out, um, so that it will be as blank as yours. Drop schema. All right, so yeah, please just leave this there and don't take it out. So this is how it looks like when you have your MySQL workbench installed the way it should. And so you have all of these tabs over here that you can actually work with. So you have the file that's contained. You can actually start a new model or query tab. You can open model. You can go to your recent stuffs, and the edit gives you more features. By the time we start working on it, some of this will come alive and we'll be able to use them. The home, the query, the database, the server, and the tool scripting app. So some of this we won't touch now, but I would like to draw your attention to this second layer where you have create a new SQL tab. This is for open a SQL script file, and this is for open operation. Operator for the selected object, and this is to create a new schema in the connected server, and then this is to actually create a new table. This is for a new view. Um, this is to store new procedure in active schema, and this is to create a function. And also this is to search the table, and this is to reconnect to the database management system that you subscribe to. Yeah, so we won't be connecting to any database management system for now, but we will bring in um, a database. So there are several ways by which you can actually kickstart or bring in a database, and the first of them is actually to bring in an existing database. So permit me to quickly go get the database I just dropped. All right, um, just a moment, trying to get it out. Okay, before bringing that in, so I can actually just create a schema. Okay, I can create a schema and I can call it tracking transit. So let me not start from by bringing that in. So I can come here and say I want to create a schema. So mind this icon, and schema is same as saying creating a database. So it's saying that new schema. So what is the name of my schema? Let me call it tech in transit class. So tech in transit class, I'll just say apply. Okay. So this is the syntax that, and one of the good thing about this workbench is that I could have written this code myself, but it has taken it on itself to write it for me because I am using the dialog box. So and then I say apply and say finish. So yours faithfully, um, this has been created. So the the tech in transit database has been created for me, and I need not to write anything to create it. Just by using the dialog box that popped up, and just by clicking this create new schema, and so it gives me all of these options: tables, views, stored procedure, and functions. So I don't have any table, because I've only created a blank what's it called, just an empty database or an empty schema. So I can then start putting in my tables. I can start creating my tables, and instead of saying, okay, so now because I explained something about primary keys and foreign keys, so we'll put that to work now. So I can then come here and say create table. So we have started our journey. Okay, so it is not case sensitive, but let us distinguish our keywords with from other things that we'll be writing. And remember, so keywords can take space, okay, when you're defining them. So, but based on how it has been defined, so creatable is a keyword that you can actually use space for. But when I want to now, because the next thing I should do now is to specify my table name, okay? So what is the table name that we want to specify? Um, let's say this table is for student registration, student underscore registration. Okay, so use um I won't use student registration. I won't use student registration just because um I mean I won't use a space in between here just because I want to write student registration. So it will end up giving me an error. And that's why you see me supporting with an underscore, okay? So it's asking me to define other things that I want. So I will have to tell this humble musical statement that the student ID, I want the student ID to be, let me just write it in full. I want the student ID to be the primary key. And even before defining what it should be, I want to tell what is the, I want it to be of the type integer. And I as well want it to be my primary key. Remember I said we should respect keywords by having them in musical in capital letter. Then I separate by a comma, I enter, okay. So I also say it should also contain the name, say student name now. And this one should be virtual. So okay, so we have type of we have musical, we have data type, daytime, we have, but basically these are musical. Like the virtual now, which I am going to declare this as virtual, will actually be value or character. So value and character. So value and character says, okay, you know what values are? Could be a number, could be an alphabet, and it could be a character like hyphen, comma, and like. So you know we have some people with compound name. Um, um, I can't recall anymore. Don't let me call the one that comes to my mind. That drag me. Okay. All right. Um, so we have that, but I mean we won't stop at that. So we want to limit the number of the characters. Okay, we want to limit the number of characters that this will take. I want to believe that you fill some form in the purse, and by the time you character, it's not allowing you to write beyond that certain character. And that's because it has been limited. So possibly it's limited to 5 characters, it's limited to 20 characters. Some could be limited to 1,000 characters. Maybe you are writing an essay and you got to a point. I mean, okay, a very good example is the X space. No matter how interesting the story you want to write on X is, if it passes certain character, it will cut you off. But I mean, I don't know if LinkedIn has that limit because I've seen a lot of long essays on LinkedIn. So we want to limit the student name to, so let's say student full name. So even if you are Agbabiaka Ali Kuwodo, shouldn't exceed 50. So student name we're limiting to 60, and then we say let's say the email address, email underscore address. And we can also still use this format, capitalizing each word. So these are some of the ways we write. So you can either choose to capitalize each word and without any space, or you use your underscore. Okay. So we say email address. We say it's a virtual as well, so you can control values and variables and characters. Okay, virtual. um, So we want to say that I think 50 is also a very good one for this. So we now have a table called student registration, which has the student ID, which is um, it has the student full name, and it also has the email address of the student. Okay, so having done this, we can then close the bracket. Okay, so we can close the bracket. So there is this other thing we can do um, to these, um, but let's undo this very simple one being the first. So we then say run. So this is the run button here. It says execute the selected option. So if we click to run now, let's see what happens. All right, so we ran into an error. And what is this error telling us? It's telling me that this thing that I am doing. Oh, you didn't get out to name the schema. All right, sorry. I have 26 people on the call, and even from this page I'm looking at, I don't seem to have a lot of Yorubas. So I wanted to say something in Yoruba that SQL is telling me that saying, which means I'm just wasting my effort in the sense that I have not selected and to be created against. So that I will do now, that I want it to be in this database. Okay, so now it understand that this is the database I want it to be in. You could see that it ran without any issue now. Okay, so it's run without any issue. So now we now have a table, and our table. Okay, so let me refresh this. Is now coming up. So this is our table. The table is called student registration, and then we have all of this here. So we can see the details of this particular table. It says the student ID is an int, um, and also is the PK, which is the primary key, and also we have the student full name, which is virtual and limited to 50 characters. We also have the email address, also a virtual 50 character as well. So I haven't done all of this, but where is this one coming from? Okay, because I selected on um, the table. Okay, great. So now our table is still empty. Okay, our table is still empty because we have just created it. We have just created the table, And I saw someone on the group saying that he doesn't know how that table was created. So for the sake of that person, and I think I have the attention of everybody now, um, let me drop this particular schema. So I'm dropping the schema to start again. Okay, I'm dropping the schema to start again. Okay, please pay attention. It's not good that we have to be going over things. All right, so I'm dropping the schema. Okay, good. So I have dropped it. I haven't run you through this first. Okay, so I was trying to explain um, getting the schema without having to write any code to initiate the schema. So you just come here and say create schema. So you have it here. It pops up by itself, and we want to name it. Let me delete this off. So we want to name this new schema tech in transit. So we want to name this new schema tech in transit. Did I say tech in transit database?
Maybe.
Okay, so all right, so then I just want to say next. This pops up. Okay, I say apply, and then yeah, it's finished. So once you have this in place, let me refresh. Okay, so refreshing this, I should have everything that is contained in the database or everything that comes with the database. So it gives me a place for a table, views, for views, stored procedure functions. Remember, we have this table, it's just there sitting, it's not doing anything because we don't have anything there. But it says we can have a table. So now we want to create a table, and then this is the statement for creating a table. So remember, it's a language. So if I say this is a table, this is the statement. So you know that statement is a complete expression that makes a lot of sense. So this makes sense in creating a table. So and we'll say the table name. So let's go again. Okay, so say create tables, and we say the table name is what is student registration. Okay, the table name is student registration, and so we open a bracket in front of it um, to say, okay, now give the detail of what should be in that table. We said the first thing we want to see there is the student ID. And we said the student ID should be an integer, and it should also stand in as our primary key. That's, and remember the function of the primary key. Okay, so and then we say the next attribute we want to see in this, we should have again student full name. Student full name. Okay, so I haven't gotten the student full name. We said the data type it should be a virtual, and we are limiting it to just 50 characters. And then we want to also have the student email. Student email. So student email, and then we say it's also a virtual, and then it's 50 character. All right. So we're done with what we have to do, and we say it's okay. So remember, we ran into an error the other time because while we're doing all of this, we didn't select the database we wanted to go into. So we say we want it to go into this particular schema. All right. So by the time we've selected it, you will see it will bolding. The name of the schema will come out in bold. So if we didn't select it, say for instance, let me just refresh. it still stands selected. Okay, how do I unselect this? Okay, I mean it's selected. All right, so we just run it from here. So let me be sure, create table, student registration, student ID. Okay, so I think everything looks good. So now we've created it. So when you look into it, you possibly won't see anything for now. You're not seeing any drop down in the table section. So you possibly want to just come here and say refresh all. So right click in this space and say refresh all. And by the time you do that, the table comes alive and you have this. So um, now you can double click on the table name and which is student registration, and then you can come down here and see the details of the table name. It says it has student ID. Um, it is an integer, and it's also the primary key. And we have the student full name, which is a virtual 50, and we have the student's email, which is also virtual 50. All right. So having said that, then we have everything that we need to put up. So we have that in place. Okay. Now we can take this out, and so we want to check what our table looks like. So remember, um, our first query, select asterisk. So when you just select asterisk, asterisk here means select everything from. So we call our table from this table. All right, so we run this, and when we run it, so it gives us um, I say customer ID, student ID, student full name, student email, but it says null, null, null. So what that means is that we don't have anything in there. We don't have anything in there. Null, null, null. So we don't have anything in there. So what should we do to get something into our table? So that's where we then insert something into our table. Okay, so we insert something into our table. All right. Um, okay. So let me do this in case I need to recap. Um, so let me use this for our select asterisk from and then run. Okay, so let me bring in another and see so that we use this for our insert. So now we want to insert value into what we have. Okay, so what we have is so to insert. So the keyword is insert. Okay, insert into. All right. So insert into. So we then call the table name, which is this. So we call the table name, and then we say um, so we bring in those things that we have. Mm. So what do we have? We have the student ID. Okay, we have the student full name. So please make sure you write it as it is contained in the table that was declared. If not that, it will throw an error. So now this is where the case sensitivity will now come in. So this is case sensitive because you have declared it yourself. Student ID, student full name, student email. Now, so now, um, so the first value say the number one person and then we have John. No, let me look for a name here. Emmanuel DB is the first name that my eyes went to. Emmanuel DB. Another name, Belkis Olarewaju. My eyes is gender balance. Okay. Oh no. Sorry. I can't do it this way. Um, I should actually look for. Okay. Let me use Belkis Olarewaju as the email. Waju at tnt.com. Then I close this up. Okay. Now, so if I should run this, so we already have something in our table. So we have successfully inserted this into our table. All right. So if we come back here and we re-execute this particular one that was showing non-null, so if we re-execute it, you see we have student ID 1 Emmanuel Adebiyi, and the email is Bilkis Olarewaju at tnt.com. Okay, pretty simple, pretty straightforward, but you will trust me that life isn't that simple, all right? So, but I mean, basically, if you were asked how to, mm, okay, so let me again then do some insert. Okay, let me say number 2, and then um, at this time, let Bilkis stand out for herself. Okay, and let me just give her another email. All right, so and then I run. So now pay attention. So if I should by any means leave this as 1, that is the 2 as 1, then trouble will come up, because that means there will be a duplicate of that serial number 1 and it won't take it. Okay, I only don't like seeing that error, but let me just run it and let's see. All right, so it's telling me that look at what the error is below the line. It says insert into student, and it says duplicate entry 1 for key student registration primary. So that means I have registered something there and I'm trying to do a duplicate, so which it won't take. So let me just put it at 2. So I'm driving at something. So all right, so it has taken this. So we can come back here and rerun this. Then we have 2. All right, so we have 2 here. So I can now apply my where. Okay, I can apply my where student ID, where student ID equals 1. Okay, so if I tell it to give me, I said select everything when from student registration where student ID equals 1. So if I run this, I will get just Emmanuel DB, because that is the only time where student ID equals 1. Okay, so and that is how to explore the database. All right, so if I try following 1111. Yeah, can I get comment in the chat box if you're following? Okay, so how do I get the new tabs? So what I do is just to click this first SQL, and that's the new SQL tab. So just click on it. I believe we have the same thing. So you should get the same result. All right. So I will be taking this out now. Or let me not take it out. Let me just introduce what I want to introduce, and that will get us into a more um, a very robust discussion. And so we now trying to play out, play with, we're trying to play with a database itself. So this is us just trying to create something, knowing how to actually insert into the table, knowing how to update. Okay, so we can also update. All right, so we can update. So remember, let me just quickly do the update, especially for number one. Okay, the first person, um, Emmanuel. So remember when I was putting in Emmanuel, I just use Bilkis Olanrewaju. So now I discovered that this is wrong. This is not Emmanuel's email address, and then I want to update this particular entry. That wow, why is Bilkis email reflecting for Emmanuel? So what if you want to do in this case is just to update that particular entry. So, and the statement to update that particular entry is just update. Okay. So you want to update this table. Okay. It is the table you want to update. All right. So you want to update the table student registration. Okay. And what do you want to do to update it? You want to set the student email. Okay. Student email. You want to set the student email to be equal to, so now let's give it the new thing we want it. So it is Emmanuel, right? Emmanuel DB. Okay. Let's TNT CO. Right. So now we have set it. So but we want to tell it where it should go and apply it to. So where the student uh, where student ID, where student ID equals 1. Remember, Emmanuel is the student ID with ID 1. So we are saying update student registration, that is the table student registration, set student's email to be equal to this. And where should that happen? Where this is this. Because if we don't set this option, it can go into that table and change the two entries we have to this. But now we have limited it to just when student ID equals 1, which is the appropriate ID of Emmanuel. So by the time we run this, so let's go back here, remove this. Okay, we can even leave it since 1 is for Emmanuel. You will observe that this Blikis Olarewaju, Bikis, sorry, so that she won't come from me, Bikis Olarewaju will change to Emmanuel Adebi at TNT.com. Okay, and we've just updated something, but this is just on a very local scale. So let me bring in something and let us get the discussion into another level. All right, all right. So now I was talking about the database that must have been shared. If it is not shared, look out for it. It will be shared. So we want to bring in a database into this workbench, all right? We want to bring in a database that is on our local machine. So it is on our local machine. We're not connecting to any system. We're not connecting to any server yet, okay? But we have a database that is on our local machine and want to load it into this place and want to query it. All right. So this icon here, that's the second. This was what I was using to create a new SQL tab. And this particular one, it says open a SQL script file in a new query tab. So by the time I click on this, I'll click on open. Okay. So if I click open, so this is what is in that particular file. So this is what is there. All right. This is what is there. So all I need to do is just to run it. So just click to run this. You can be sure that it is correct. What they have there is correct. So just click to run it. So it has, we have just run it and it didn't give any error. So once you run this what's it called, this code, this line of code, you should be sure that it will add a new um, a new database for you, a new schema. So a new schema has been added with the name classic models. Okay, a new schema has been added with the name classic model. And if we want to check the number of tables it has, so these are the tables in that model. It has the table called customers, employees, offices, order details, orders, payments, product lines, products. Okay, so this particular database, we want to query it. So um, the first thing we might want to do is to say, um, okay, so now let's query this database. All right. So we just want to first see what is there. Okay, we just want to see what is there. All right. So we say the same way we did select. Okay. For we say select asterisk. We want to see everything. Don't worry, your system won't crash. But there are some database you will select asterisk, then you go and buy another system. So select asterisk from this table. So let's select one of the tables. So customer. So we'll select all from customers. So this is what it looks like. Okay. So it has customer number, customer name, customer last name. I mean contact last name, contact first name, phone, address, and you can slide all the way. Okay. This is what these are. I mean, this database is just to show you what the database looks like. So without doing this, because you are working in MySQL workbench, so even without doing this, you can come on this and you right click. Okay, you can see table inspector. So there is an inspector in MySQL workbench that helps to inspect the table. So when you click OK, so it gives you everything that you need to know about that workbench. Okay. I mean, so if you come, this is the what's it called? This is the info. That's the basic info about the that particular table. So these are the columns which we can regard as attributes that is within that table, right? So the indexes. So you know the primary key. The customer number is actually the primary key here, and then you see other things and petition grant and stuff. So this is how it was. So if you want to look at the declaration for each of them, so you want to look at the declaration for each of them, so you can come here and see the declaration for each of them. All right. So these are the declaration for each of them. So because sometimes you want to, maybe somebody called and say, I'm putting in some detail, um, my state, or say for instance now my address, my home address, my address line one, the address line one bar. I'm putting in my address and it's cutting off. You possibly want to come and check what it was declared as in this place. So by the time you say oh, and you will be able to speak from an informed point of view and say, oh God, you can't put in more than 50, and that is why we have provided the address line 2. So anywhere it stops at address line 1, you can continue in address line 2, and just like that. I mean, so this is where you can get that, and you can do the same for all of the tables in this. Okay, and you can do the same thing even for the schema. So we have the schema inspector as well. So the schema inspector will tell you all the tables under the schema and all the columns all together. As fantastic as this is, there is one that I love to always share with people, okay? And that is, it helps me, personally, and I think everyone who has worked with a relational database will appreciate that particular feature, and that's um, the reverse engineering and the diagram. Okay, so now if you come up here, okay, to database, okay, so you will see this particular place that's reverse engineering. So if you click on reverse engineer, all right, and you click next, okay, you click next, so it will bring out a pop-up asking for your password. Remember, there was a password you used while setting up your MySQL workbench. Please don't forget that password. Okay, so let me stop sharing and putting my password. Okay, so let me share before clicking enter. So I have put in my password. I want to believe it is correct. So I say okay. All right, good. My password was correct. And then I say next. So it is for class model I want to see. And I say next. And then next again. And I say execute. Okay, execute. All right, so it's executing my. So I say next and then finish. All right, so whoa, this is one of the things I love the most in SQL. Okay, you know why? This gives me the opportunity of seeing everything that exists in my database. Okay, so you can see how each of those tables relate to themselves. And if you want to apply joins, so now if you want to apply joins, this relationship will help you to know, okay, for instance, now I need, this is employee, right? This employee, I need extension. Okay, somebody, I am working with someone, I need the person extension, and I know what's it called, the customer phone number, and as well as the order, that's the maybe the order date. So I need these three information: order date, customer phone number, and extension. So it is not contained in one table. It is contained in three different tables within the same database. Now I want to be able to know how to navigate from maybe employee table to customer table, then to order table. So with this diagram, and this is where you will salute the relationship that exists between them. Okay, so how to understand the relationship? So this particular icon, okay, this icon you can see that has like three finger at the tip represent many, and you can even learn it from here, from this legend side on the right. You can see where I'm running through. So you see a straight line, a totally straight line is one to one. Okay, and it's even bringing out the interpretation. So this is one to one, and this is one to many. This is one to one as well, and this is one to many, and this is many to many. So when you have something like this is a one to many, and it is in whatever direction you are looking at it. From production line to other details is one to many. If you want to look at it from the other side, you can have it as many to one. That is from other details to production line. But also other details to order, we have a many to one, and these are all that we have. Okay, okay. This is even calling to itself, and that's a special case. But we have all of this relationship existing between them, and you can identify their primary keys by this gold key symbol. So this is the primary key here, this is the primary key here, this is the primary key here, this is the primary key here. And you will know that something is unique to all of those primary keys. They are mostly numbers, okay? But in this case, this is a varchar, so which is a character, so which is okay. So, but mostly numbers because and they use IDs, like customer number. It's more like customer ID, product code. It's more like product ID, order number, more like order ID, employee number, more like employee ID. So these are some of the things that they play in. But having this view helps you, especially when you are doing your joints. Okay. Um, so you'll be able to see everything at a go, and then you can then take informed decision on how to write your joints, and then you can then move from one table to then you can move from one table to the other. I think we have learned something from now.